The Barnstable Fire Training Academy started in the 1950s under the ownership of Hyannis Fire Department. And in 1983, the property transitioned into the county's oversight. And in 1986, the property was made available to all fire departments on Cape Cod and some other private entities for life-saving fire training. So the site was used as a location for the different departments to train new and experienced staff in life-saving techniques. AFFF, aqueous film-forming foam, started to be used in the 1960s, and it was very effective in putting out fires, both domestic and airport-related jet fuels. The issue with the AFFF was that it contained PFAS, polyfluoroalkyl substances, which was known to be, in recent years, toxic and hazardous to us in the environment. At the time, no one knew the dangers of the PFAS. Cape Cod is mostly sand, so you have a fast groundwater travel time, and it impacted some of the down gradient public water supplies. So through testing investigations, we discovered that we had PFAS here. With PFAS detection, we contacted Mass DEP. They provided us with a release tracking number where we became a remediation site under the Massachusetts contingency plan. We essentially had a sit-down meeting with Mass DEP talking about what can we do to immediately respond to this plume. We had an old pump and treat system for a previous perchlorate release that was retrofitted to pump and treat for PFAS. The second action in 2019 was that we capped the entire site. So we essentially paved the site with a liner to prevent rainwater from infiltrating into the soils, into the groundwater, and pulling PFAS down gradient. So the initial remediation response was performed by the county. We actually had an in-house licensed site professional, but they also had other obligations across the county for work to be performed. So we decided to put out an RFP, request for proposals, to secure an environmental consultant specializing in PFAS remediation work.
Our challenge was getting on the right people to help us better understand how groundwater, the system moves here, how it works, how it flows, because you can't really design a remediation program or initiative without knowing essentially how the groundwater system works.
GZA presented a three-team approach to the site as it's a very complex and widespread issue. They had a technical team that specialized in the phase 2 site investigation, technical team specializing in the immediate response action construction piece, and then a technical group helping us with the PFAS footprint. So based on the team they brought to the table, the experience they had, we decided to go with GZA.
So for the site assessment, we realized it was going to be a complex project because of the location of the site. It's in the middle of a few different public supply well fields. You have the Barnstable Fire District to the west, you have the Mary Dunn wells to the east, and further to the southeast you have the Marr wells. These wells are pumping large amounts of water, which is influencing where groundwater is flowing and ultimately where the PFAS plume from the site is migrating. There's also sites in the immediate vicinity, such as the Cape Cod Gateway Airport, which have their own PFAS plumes. So there's the potential for commingling of different PFAS plumes in the area. We realized we'd have to look at this site on a holistic scale and gather all the data we could from the area. So we reached out to different project stakeholders and identified a few data gaps, which we tried to fill with the installation of multi-level monitoring wells along the edges of the plume, as well as some additional soil sampling. And we completed comprehensive groundwater gauging rounds. So this means we collected depths to water at all the wells across this site, as well as across the Cape Cod Gateway Airport and the Barnstable Water Pollution Control, which is just to the south of the site. We were able to display all these groundwater elevations on a plan so we could understand where groundwater is flowing. We also collected groundwater samples from over 100 wells at the site. And we coordinated this with the airport, who also collected samples across the airport. These were all analyzed for PFAS, and we displayed the PFAS values on a plan so we could map out where the different PFAS plumes are located. Our assessments at the site have helped us understand the groundwater flow patterns and the geology, such that we were able to select and design an appropriate remedial action for the site.
So numerous attempts were made in the past to remediate the site, including soil excavation, capping, and groundwater extraction and on-site treatment. However, additional measures were needed to further mitigate the contaminant migration and groundwater at the site. So a permeable reactive barrier is a relatively low-invasive, cost-effective measure which can be highly effective at mitigating PFAS contamination through groundwater. We implemented a pilot test program using a colloidal activated carbon product produced by Regenis that's called Plume Stop. And the post-injection monitoring results from that pilot test program demonstrated that the PFAS contamination levels in groundwater were below the current regulatory standards. Based on that, we recommended to the county that they implement a full-scale PRB at the site.
The design is a 620-foot plume stop barrier. One of the major benefits that we have with IBIS in the way that we're applying this design is it's able to simplify the complexities within the design. So IBIS has the capability at the touch of a button to add more plume stop or water to the mix and basically combine multiple designs into a single point, which is really increasing the efficiency of the site and is making a more well put together barrier.
One of the things that I was very insistent upon is that we make sure that the engineers that we brought in could present their work and be as transparent as possible with the residents of the Cape. Every piece of information that we know about this site, we wanted to make sure that the people of the Cape knew and understood. Water on Cape Cod is a critical issue, and we want to make sure that we are doing as much as we possibly can do to make sure that that water supply is clean and potable and healthy for the people on Cape Cod.
This is a sound approach in terms of solving a problem that many people here on Cape Cod care deeply about. So that's one of the reasons why county commissioners, myself, and our team, we're very excited about the course that we're on.